Welcome back, guys, to my series of X-Men reviews leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. Holy crap, guys. We are already in July. It's coming, guys. It's coming. So I've already covered the first two X-Men movies, which always holds a special place to my heart. Now I'm going to review the most divisive X-Men movie in this series, and that film, of course, is X-Men: The Last Stand. This movie is not directed by Bryan Singer this time. This movie is directed by Brett Ratner, who directed the Rush Hour movies, and this movie stars, of course, the same cast as the original, including Halle Berry, Hugh Jackman, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Famke Janssen, also with some new people from Kelsey Grammer and Ellen Page. Now, like I said, this movie is not directed by Bryan Singer this time. He has gone on actually to do Superman Returns, which, in my opinion, I find the movie underrated. I know a lot of people hate Superman Returns. I enjoyed Superman Returns for what it was. But I'll still agree that it is a mistake not directing X-Men 3, because what makes X-Men 1 and 2 so special is that it's a political drama. It's a character study with superhero action in it, and I thought it's done very well, and I think Bryan Singer directed the first two films very well. Now, Brett Ratner directed this movie, and you can really tell watching this movie, like comparing to the first two movies, that this is a completely different film than the other two movies. And that's why people are divisive on this film. Some people like this film, but most people do not like this film. Now, do I hate this film personally? No. I actually enjoyed X-Men: The Last Stand for what it is, but I would agree that this is probably my least favorite in this trilogy. Now, there are some good things in this movie, and there are some bad things in this movie. So let's just go through the good stuff first. I would say the actors still are strong in this movie. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is still as badass as ever. But what I like about this movie as well is Halle Berry as Storm in this movie, because this is definitely her spot to shine in this film, because she has an arc in this film. The other two films, she's more in the background. We get to see Storm's character much more explored in a way in this film, because she's basically on a motivation that Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier said she'll be the next to take over. So she definitely has a motivation here, and I thought Halle Berry was actually pretty good as Storm in this film. At least some side characters are getting much more explored, you know, with X-Men 2 with Jean Grey and this movie with Storm. I thought it's really well done. Ian McKellen is, of course, badass as Magneto. This is probably the badass that I've seen Magneto in this series. He has some really awesome scenes, including lifting this bridge. So badass. And you know, the rest of the cast, from Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, everyone did a pretty good job in this film. And we got some new people as well, including Kelsey Grammer as Beast. Man, what a great casting, because he is actually one of my favorite aspects of this film. He's so good in this film. I love the makeup they put on the Beast, first of all. That makeup looks impressive, and Beast has some really awesome action scenes that stands out. Definitely Beast is one of my favorite new characters in this movie, that is for sure, because Beast is definitely a badass in this film. And I really like the plot aspect of curing mutants. I thought that plot aspect is actually one of the most interesting aspects of this movie, and that kind of divides with the X-Men and Magneto's army to basically clash. I thought that's a really awesome story to tell. I think it's a very interesting aspect of this film, because yeah, there are some mutants out there that have some bad mutations, like Rogue, for example. She has a reason why she wants to cure her mutation, because of course her powers suck. So I do like this plot aspect of curing mutants. I thought it's a very interesting take on the X-Men series. That's probably the only story arc that I was like, okay, this is actually really freaking interesting in this film. And yes, there's a Dark Phoenix story too, which we're going to get back to that in the flaws, unfortunately. But I would also say the action scenes of this movie is really well done. This is definitely the most action-packed out of the X-Men trilogy. There are some pretty good action scenes, especially the final battle in the film. The action is still filmed very well done. Brett Ratner actually directed the action scenes pretty well, in my opinion. Even though it is a little out of place because of what the first two are actually about, this one is more of a action film with a bit of plot in it, but it's more of an action film per se. I still think the action is very well done in this film. But this is where we're going to get to my negatives of this film, because this film is not perfect. As a film, it's an enjoyable action film, but with story and stuff, this movie is absolutely messy. Like I said, I do like the plot aspect with the Cure Mutants. I thought that's interesting, but we also have a Dark Phoenix saga story in this film, which is one of the most important aspects of the X-Men comics. And they honestly just put it to the side in this film, and I felt like the Dark Phoenix story could have just been in a completely solo film. And yes, they tried that in 2019 and they did that terribly. But with this plot of curing mutants with Jean Grey's Dark Phoenix saga in the movie, it just made it so freaking messy. Now, Famke Janssen is great in this movie as Jean Grey. There are some great Dark Phoenix stuff happening in this film where I'm like, damn, Famke Janssen definitely bring it all to this film. There are aspects where she's absolutely terrifying in this film, like the house scene at Jean Grey's house where she kills Charles Xavier. Man, that scene was really freaking intense. It shows that Famke Janssen is a pretty underrated actress, and I thought she did a really good job as Jean Grey. The problem is, the Dark Phoenix story in the film is kind of in the background. Like, yeah, it's in the film, but it's not one of the biggest aspects of this film, unfortunately. It's more about the curing mutants plot and the war between mutants and mutants. And I feel like the Dark Phoenix story is one of the most important stories in the comic books, and they just bring it all to this film, just putting it to the side, and I feel like that could have been much more explored. If X-Men is going to be in the MCU, hopefully they did the Dark Phoenix story better than this movie and Dark Phoenix in general. Make it like what the comics basically presented, because I heard it is one of the most important aspects of the X-Men comics. And it's just like, they just put it to the side, and I felt like that could have been in a completely different film. And there are some forced aspects of this film, to be honest with you. Like, there is a forced love triangle between Iceman, Kitty Pryde, which is another new character in the film played by Ellen Page, of course now Elliot Page, but back then she was Ellen Page, and Rogue. And I just find this love triangle just so freaking forced in this film. It didn't create much tension to the film, it just is basically there, basically. Even some characters are just there as well, like Angel's character, for example. Like, literally, his backstory from the beginning of the film as a kid when he's cutting off the wings, it's an intense scene, and I'm like, okay, I cannot wait to see his character goes. He's just there. They didn't even bring that plot back. He's just there, he's there for an action scene, and that's it. His character is just completely wasted in this film. Also, with killing characters off in this film, like Cyclops, for example, that made James Marsden as Cyclops just completely wasted. And Charles Xavier's death, like I said, it's a very intense scene. But that is for nothing because of that end credit scene after this. It just made that scene completely pointless, but still a very intense scene. And that's the problem with X-Men The Last Stand. This movie is all over the place. There's a lot of messy aspects of the film. There's a lot of things happening in this film that makes this film just completely messy overall. But I think what they did great in this film is the emotional aspects. Like I said, with Charles Xavier's death, one of the most intense scenes. I was really on the edge of my seat in that scene, especially from rewatching it now. Even Jean Grey's death in general for Wolverine and Jean Grey, because of course Wolverine is still in love with Jean Grey. And he has no choice to kill her because of course the Phoenix is taking mostly over, and it's still a pretty impactful emotional scene. So there are some good scenes in X-Men The Last Stand, but the problem is this film is all over the place with too many plots and just too many aspects. Oh yeah, and we also got the Juggernaut.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch! Seriously, fuck off. So yes, X-Men The Last Stand is my least favorite in the X-Men trilogy, but it's not a terrible movie. I do like the plot with the curing mutants. I thought that's very interesting in the film. The action is still great. The cast is really good in the film. I just feel like the problem with this film is that it's way too messy, too many plots happening. The Dark Phoenix story, the most important story in the X-Men comics, is just put to the side really in the film. I feel like this movie doesn't really match of what the first two X-Men's pretty much meaning. Like, I love that the first two are just political dramas and character studies with X-Men in it. I thought it just completely works. This movie's just a pure superhero action film, and the action is fine, but I feel like this movie misses the point of what the first two X-Men movies are great. And I feel like if Bryan Singer did direct the third X-Men movie, I feel like it would have been completely different. But he went on to direct Days of Future Past and basically fixed the problems with this movie, definitely. So I don't hate X-Men Last Stand. I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's definitely my least favorite in the X-Men trilogy.
You have no idea. You have no idea what is upon us now.
Fury that this world has never witnessed.
Magneto's got an army out there. You got a war, you might not come home. She might not come home. You ready for that? We're not kids anymore. Hey, I'm not your father. If you want to go, be sure it's what you want.
It's time we make our choice. If you're with us, then be with us.
They wish to cure us. And I say we are the cure.
Look talking, Minji. We can help you. We can fix it. We can make it like it was. Stay with me, please.
So guys, that is my review for X-Men The Last Stand. Look forward to my next X-Men review. X-Men Origins Wolverine. That is going to be a fun one. So guys, what do you guys think of X-Men The Last Stand? Do you like the movie, hate the movie, or you thought it's okay? Just let me know in the comments below. Make sure you guys follow me on social media links down below. Keep contact with me, and make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for my latest movie reviews and other movie related content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a nice day.